The salt and steel of Metal Harbor yields abruptly, demurely, to the verdant maw of green forests, the last guard post frozen before the trees like doomed prey. The jungle is life, brutal and beautiful, all sun-dappled leaves and leaf-dappled earth and poison-dappled frogs. It rustles, it roars, and oh yes, it dapples. A susurration of nature untouched by human hands, unspoiled by robot claws, and undappled by hedgehog footprints. Well, slightly dappled.
Woo! So far, so good.
That blue hedgehog again, of all places.
Hey, that's... I found you, faker!
Faker? I think you're the fake hedgehog around here. You're comparing yourself to me? Ha! You're not even good enough to be my
I'll
fake...
make you eat those words.
What?
It's like I'm there.
I'm the coolest.
Sega, please hire. Oh
Explain.
So long ago, there was a
I'm
video
on the
game
outside
called,
of this one.
There was a video
You'll-
game
you'll
called
learn
Sonic
soon
Adventure
enough.
2.
Okay.
And then it was remastered for the GameCube, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle.
Okay.
And in that game, you, Sonic the Hedgehog, fight Shadow the Hedgehog in a green forest called
Okay.
Green Forest. And that's the intro to the fight. It's a work of art. It's a work of cinema, dare I say.
You have to have a
Notorious-
certain level of intelligence to understand Sonic Adventure 2.
That's
Obviously.
true.
Notoriously, the spoken Japanese dub was much quicker than the English dub, so the characters just interrupt each other at random times to hit the mouth like the lip flaps. It's great.
They get so much whiplash with that game.
Socialist Shelf. Be good, goods, and organize yourself. Socialist Shelf. Be good, goods, and organize yourself.
You're now listening to Socialist Shelf Radio.
Welcome to the Socialist Shelf. I've been blindsided once. Hopefully, I will not be blindsided again. I don't even know what to do with myself here. I am out of my depth, but luckily, we have brought a guest that can shed some light on this subject. Today, we are talking about Sonic, specifically the Archie comics, specifically some hyper-specific stuff within the Archie comics. And to do it, we've brought a all-around Sonic expert, artist extraordinaire, our friend Tay, Wiispywitch on Instagram, and we will link everything. But also, most notably for those who listen to this podcast, the designer of our original artwork and now our up-to-date artwork. Tay, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me here. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm really glad to have been caught you off guard with our little fantastic intro.
Tay, how long have you been a hedgehog?
All my life, I was born as a hedgehog, obviously. I'm a pink hedgehog like Amy.
I see. Well, those of you who can't see, Tay is on the video camera, and Tay is a pink hedgehog. You're going to have to take our word for it, as this is an audio
Yes.
medium.
And
Absolutely.
you would think that would be a problem, like trying to be an artist and also being a hedgehog. But if you've engaged with Sonic the Hedgehog media, all the animal characters have opposable thumbs. So
Oh
fine.
yes, obviously.
I don't have a lot of description here. I don't have a lot of a way of understanding the Sonic universe, but it's okay because we've got some people who can, and Ryan is definitely gonna bring us some heat today. Ryan, I know you care about this subject deeply.
Yeah, and just to get us all into the mood of Sonic, I think we should do one of the oldest Sonic rituals known to man. If
There are
everybody could
rituals.
if everybody could pull up their internet browser
Okay.
real quick, and listener, you are heavily encouraged to participate as well. We're going to go to Google Images. You are going to type into the search bar
Sonic
your
inflation?
Oh, Lord.
incorrect. No. We're saving that for later. You are going to
Inflation has gotten so bad under capitalism, it's become Sonic speed. Listener, look up Sonic inflation to learn more.
I will come after you, so help me God.
What are we typing in, Ryan?
you are typing your own name
Okay.
into the search bar, followed by the two words "the hedgehog."
Oh,
And we're just
good.
gonna go around and describe what we see.
Well, I can start here. My hedgehog is red. He's kind of got some cool quills coming down. He's got a yellow jacket, and some turquoise shorts, some cool red sneakers. He looks more like a all-around cool guy. And according to his bio, he is both part hedgehog, part chipmunk, misspelled. And he can cancel out any Monster Gym born power. He's so he's pretty cool. I'm pretty sure I've got the best hedgehog. The last thing I'll note is his notable quotes says, notable quote, "I'm here to help." So that's a really famous Jacob the Hedgehog quote.
You
Yeah,
are
that's
famously
good.
here to help.
Famously here to help.
Well, Lenore the Hedgehog has a she's kind of got a, I don't know what it is, like off-white, like ecru like thing going on. Actually remarkably similar to my hair color when it's freshly dyed. But she's got like blue quills like going over one eye, and the ends of her quills are also blue, so kind of a two-tone thing going on there that I quite appreciate. Like blue top, blue and white skater skirt that is pretty cute. And she's got like these like arm and like wrist kind of like poofy like bracelet things. I don't know, like uh she's a pure-blooded hedgehog apparently. I don't know why it's important to say she's pure-blooded. But there it is.
That'll come along in one of
We'll
the,
get into
that'll
that.
come along later.
Yeah, for the weirdest of reasons. One day she was in the park and talked with Laura. Oh, okay, so there's a fox called Laura, like there's a hedgehog called Steven. There's a whole backstory. Um, oh, and apparently her dark secret is that she has three souls. One of them are her main soul, who she is, but one takes control of her when she has sugar rush, and the other takes control of her when she has strong negative emotions, and it makes her anti, aka the exact opposite of who she is. And whoever wrote this is too tired to explain the story behind this right now because their thumbs are tired of typing.
Fair.
Hopefully they'll come back and tell me what I'm all about.
That's when if Lenore has ever had an episode where she has not come across as sharp, quick-witted, good with the analysis, she was actually anti on this podcast.
This is
That's
true.
now canon.
Too much sugar.
Oh, yes.
Let's hear about Tay. Tay, let's hear about your hedgehog.
Is it cheating if I already designed a character for Sonic based off me?
That's the opposite
Tell
of
us
cheating.
your OC.
That's the opposite. Of cheating.
Yeah, no,
That's
you've
just being
made the
crap.
rules.
Yeah.
I'm gonna send it to Jake and Lenore. Like I'm following you on Instagram, aren't I? I think
You
I
can
might be
send
able to
it in
send
the you could send it in the Zoom chat potentially.
Dee. There we go. I just screenshotted it because I'm too lazy to crop right now.
Very
Nice
nice.
little-
Oh, wow.
Nice little hedgehog here.
That's so
Yeah.
cute. Oh my God.
Very, very nice strawberry dress,
Mhm.
charming little bow. Tay, tell us about your hedgehog.
Lord, where do I begin? I made this OC when I was a teenager. I actually posted it on this website called Quotive. I don't know if it's still active or not, but it's basically fanfiction.net for babies. It's like the more emo version of Wattpad. And oh, this is so embarrassing. I'm gonna cancel myself. I shipped her with Sonic.
Let's go.
As you
Classic.
should.
Classic.
I
As you
thought
should.
about putting her in a love triangle with Shadow, but I deleted
Mm.
it was gonna be in 4 parts, but I deleted it by like book 3 or whatever. It was not a good fan fiction. It got good traction, but it was terrible.
Sometimes there's like great art that is lost to history. There's some person out there who's like, I read that and I can't find it, but it will live on in my memory and it will inspire them. So, there you go. We've got and what is it? She just named Tay, or does she have a like separate name?
Uh, Pretty much. Yeah, that's where I got the nickname Tay, ironically.
Fantastic.
Oh God.
Wait,
Ryan,
that
do you,
rules.
Art
Wait,
imitating life imitating art.
there you go.
Right?
I told y'all I had an expert to bring on the pod. I don't know what this, yeah, for this
I
topic.
don't like to brag, but
There you go. Ryan, do you have a hedgehog?
So, unfortunately, as you were saying, with the loss of great works, I had a phase in high school where I decided that all of my OCs of my previous fandoms were too cringe to survive, and I did a very successful job
no.
of purging them from
Mm,
the internet. So, unfortunately, my Ryan the Hedgehog, who was Shadow's brother, but
let's go.
is no longer findable, and unfortunately I think has been lost on one of my many destroyed hard drives.
Now, was
However,
Ryan the Hedgehog also the ultimate life form, or was he just like, did he have an inferiority complex from having a brother who was?
That's a
I
great
learned
question.
I learned the word penultimate and thought it meant cooler than ultimate.
Fuck yeah.
Oh my
So
God.
he's like the bio lizard in SA2. He was the one step before the creation of Shadow. But I
And they
will
named him
say
Ryan.
yeah, they named him Ryan.
Well,
What should we call him? Yeah.
that explains why everybody wanted me to come to Penn Island because they wanted me to come to the cool island.
Yeah, it's the coolest.
I will say though, I have not searched Ryan the Hedgehog in Google in quite some years, and it always warms my heart that every single time there's a few new Ryans. Um, there's the classic I've been seeing forever, which was drawn in colored pencil of what appears to be Sonic having been dyed black with printer ink, um, with some blue tipped droopy locks,
I'm looking
wearing
at it
a
right now.
yeah, yeah,
Printer
yeah.
ink.
He appears to
Printer
be
ink.
wearing some torn jorts over his Guy Fieri flamed bell bottom pants.
I know
That
who
one's
the I can fix him character of the week is. Wow.
And I love fan characters. They bring me so much joy.
As we said on the My Immortal episode, we are a pro fan fiction podcast, but
Yes,
but
100%.
we're in favor of it. But
fan fiction is literature.
I
Yes.
mean, the thing is, if you take enough time, it then becomes literature. What is Paradise Lost but Bible fan fiction? Exactly.
Right.
And
Well, and
the varying
ironically,
quality, it's like how do you get good at writing? Well, you probably write about something else. That's just
50 Shades of
typically
50
exactly.
Shades. Oh, yeah, 50 Shades started as a Twilight fanfiction.
Hmm.
I wouldn't use that maybe as the example of the peak there, but we probably will do a 50 Shades episode.
Famously, I mean, you're committing me to something here that I didn't. I mean, I'll do
Well,
it.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, if this goes on long enough,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it will.
it's then I mean, we would probably need to do Twilight first, but anyway, that's beside the point. Well, Sonic obviously rich history, but Ryan, for those of us who maybe don't know anything about Sonic, haven't played a Sonic game aside from say
Who are not
Mar
yet way past cool.
exactly, who are not have played nothing but Mario and Sonic Olympic games and then played Sonic for in Brawl sometimes to just like spam his like annoying B attack. You want to like tell us what this franchise is, and then we can get more specifically into the literary side because this is the Socialist Shelf. There is a shelf involved. Don't know about the Socialist, but we'll maybe find it along the way. We'll see.
we can work some class analysis into this. It involves, well, specifically, I kind of want to get y'all's take on this. As material conditions change, as social relationships to production advance, different forms of art are created. It's only possible to create certain things under certain conditions.
Sure,
Um,
photography, film, video games, etc. Yeah.
yeah, and specifically, while games go back almost before recorded history, like there's versions of Go that were invented in like BC. Video games did not start existing until about 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
Depends on what you want to define as a video game. But it's very solidly capitalism's art. It has only existed within the purview of capitalist commodification.
I
Except
mean,
for
there
Tetris.
were. I was gonna say Tetris. Shout out to Tetris.
I love Tetris.
Tetris was made in the Soviet Union, so that one was under socialism. But I understand it was made in the world capitalism has created.
Tetris famously being the one good video game.
That's true.
I could play that
I don't know.
for
I haven't played.
hours.
I haven't
Besides
played
Disco
Black Myth.
Elysium.
There you go. I haven't played Black Myth Wukong, but that's a game made in China. I don't know if it was made. I don't know. That's we're off the rails here. But yes, predominantly capitalist dominated art form. Yeah.
So Sonic the Hedgehog is the mascot and I guess you would call him brand ambassador of the company Sega. So Sega is a company most known in the modern day for developing some rather large video game franchises, most notably Sonic the Hedgehog, but also Angry Birds,
What?
Puyo Puyo, yeah, Virtua Fighter. I will forever be salty that I am in the Atlanta fighting game community and ass at 3D fighters. I will never be good at Tekken or Virtua Fighter, but they have also been involved in the production of Puyo Puyo, Persona, the Yakuza games. Very, very prolific developer.
Publishers as well of my favorite game, Skies of Arcadia.
Huh.
The definitive edition came out for the GameCube 20 years ago at this stage, and it's never going to get a fucking remake. Yeah, it's
Not
think
with
I
that,
heard that it
Lenore,
would
not with
be
that
remade.
attitude. Sega, if you're listening, remake Skies of Arcadia for Lenore specifically.
Please.
They
The
refer to it
only
in their other
person who
media.
will
They
play
haven't
it.
entirely forgotten about it, but like it's the thing itself is just not coming back, and I think it's because like they did some remasters of their old stuff like Jet Set Radio, and that kind of flopped. So I hear that kind of scared them off from it. But anyway, sorry, Justice for Skies of Arcadia.
Yeah, they're
No,
not
you're
doing
fine.
they're not doing anything else right now. I mean, they should get around to it.
I don't know, they
But-
just made an open zone game, I'm hearing.
But they started out well, you can track the streams of capital back quite a while, but the first time something recognizable as the company Sega was founded was in the 1940s, called Standard Games. They created largely slot machines or coin-operated amusement machines, as they were called to skirt gambling laws. That were
It'd
very
be so cool if they had Sonic on them.
I would love that.
If you go into like a cave somewhere in Japan and there's like a blue hedgehog scrawled on the walls,
Well, thankfully they didn't, because if there was a Sonic flavored apparatus for gambling, I don't think I would be living indoors today.
Oh, no.
But their slot machines especially were extremely popular on US military bases abroad. They first rebranded as Sega in 1965 after a long string of mergers and acquisitions, Sega being an abbreviation of service games.
I see.
And funny enough, even the story of Sega is a long string of very high highs and very low lows. Maybe not as low as it goes because, you know, there's still a company around, but they are credited with the with popularizing the quarter as being the standard price for a play of an arcade game. And this
Really?
was back in 1965. Yeah. They're credited with the first ever what was called an arcade game, which was called Periscope in 1966, which was a game where you launched missiles at submarines and you paid a quarter to do so. However, as video games proper began existing, as arcade cabinets began getting produced, they largely shied away from their own independent development and started manufacturing games licensed from other companies, like Pac-Man, which was developed by Namco but was shipped on Sega technology. They are also credited somewhat with inventing isometric graphics with a game that I had not heard of called Zaxxon. but they were very extreme. They were an extremely successful company up until the 1980s with the burgeoning arcade scene. However, in the early 80s, home consoles began to become more popular with the release of like the Super Nintendo. It started becoming popular too. Instead of leaving your home to go play a video game, well, you can play it right on your TV. And Nintendo was very much on top of that. They attempted to penetrate that market, but stop me if you've even heard of any of these. The SG-1000, the 32X, the Sega Saturn, which if you've heard of, I'm sure not for great reasons.
But
And
Ryan, Genesis does what Nintendo
Yeah.
don't.
well, we'll get to the Genesis, and we'll also get to the Dreamcast for a very similar reason. So put a pin in those two.
Look,
Mm.
I know there's the video game donkey video where he talks about how the Saturn is the greatest console of all time for like 5 minutes. And then there were people in the comments who were like, wait, are you serious? I know about that one.
Because
I
truly
mean-
it was.
I mean, it is what Genesis isn't.
That's true. In the beginning.
What
Yeah.
I heard, like I've heard people either love it or they hate it. That's like how many different like stuff I've
People-
heard with Sega
Yeah,
Genesis.
People who love it, or the Sega Genesis, yes. I was thinking of the Saturn. I don't think anyone loved the Saturn.
Yeah, the Saturn too. My bad.
But Sega was mostly just staying afloat off of its stay in the arcade scene, and it also had some really some of the biggest names in the world attached to its projects. Like they were licensing Michael Jackson's licensing or Michael Jackson's
Yes,
likeness for their games.
As a big fan of Michael Jackson, that actually makes me really happy that they actually had him do work for the soundtrack in Sonic and Sonic 3 with the one with Knuckles in it.
Is that
They
right?
did.
I thought that was an
Oh,
urban
yeah, they did.
legend.
Oh, it was a huge
Yes.
myth for a long time. But yeah, the developer of Sonic 3 confirmed in a relatively recent interview that yeah, Michael Jackson actually composed several of the tracks for Sonic 3, but had
Michael also sampled some music. If you hear the song Stranger in Moscow, he used like the end credit song from Sonic 3 and put that in Stranger in Moscow, which is a really good song.
Lesser known fact, Michael Jackson's alternate, his pen name, Ken Penders.
Oh,
Oh,
hell.
you're next, dude.
That took a turn.
that
Oh, yes, it did.
Oh man, that makes the rest of this a little weird then.
It gets
Puts
confusing.
a little bit of a kink
That
in the rest
part,
of my
not
research.
true.
So, and that leads us to our blue boy. Not our boy in blue, because Sonic famously has many issues with the policing in the world that he's in. Also put a pin
Right.
in that for lore reasons. But so Sonic the Hedgehog originally began with a tech demo by a developer named Yuji Naka at Sega, who created a sort of a physics engine demo of a ball rolling through a tube. And after many stages of development, ended up coming out the other end, Sonic the Hedgehog. They wanted to create a competing mascot to Nintendo's Mario, which they did extremely successfully, despite sort of tailing Nintendo every step of the way.
Tailsing Nintendo.
Y'all are going to love what inspired Sonic's design. Sonic's color was chosen to match Sega's cobalt blue logo.
Okay.
His shoes were inspired by Michael Jackson's boots. I don't see the connection there. I think they just wanted to plug in the name Michael Jackson to Sonic.
It's
Right.
like they used the buckle from the Bad music video. That's where they got the inspiration.
Ah, okay. So we've got the buckle connection.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
his personality came from this is a direct quote from the character designer from Sonic, Naoto Oshima. His personality came from the can-do attitude of friend of the pod and former covered author Bill Clinton.
What?
You're joking.
Come, buck
That I
off.
did
That's not
not-
true.
I am looking you all in the eyes right now and telling you that Bill Clinton was an inspiration for Sonic.
Hey,
the
Tails, we're gonna eliminate welfare as we know it.
Sonic, I didn't. Wait, no, Tails, I did not have relations with that woman. Oh my god.
Well, you know, Knuckles, it depends on what your definition of is.
Oh god, I learn something every day.
Yugoslavia. I think Eggman has something to do with that.
Jesus Christ. The president is missing. You actually, the whole time, you should be picturing Sonic as the main character. We have to
I
go
mean,
back.
they go to the
Hiding in
Blue
Green
House
Hill
at one
Zone.
point.
That's true.
Every
That's true.
time I come on this podcast, Bill Clinton comes up in some form or fashion.
And he always will until we have him on the show.
Curse you, Bill!
Inescapable.
He's lurking.
Bill Clinton what's the funniest thing Bill Clinton could come on to talk about? Like Bill Clinton on the podcast to discuss
State of Terror.
Bill Clinton on the podcast to discuss Rodham, that book about if Hillary had never married.
God. Sponsoring his book.
We're gonna have him on to discuss Terry Goodkin's Wizard's First Rule. That which does seem like a book
that
of
first
similar
rule-
caliber.
That first rule, don't ask, don't tell.
Yes, a book of similar caliber the president is missing. But anyway, go ahead, Ryan.
So, out of these strong inspirations, Sonic the Hedgehog was born. And now, this was slightly before my time. This would have been 1991, the year that the first Sonic the Hedgehog game was released. But it really, cannot be understated how wildly influential Sonic was, not only in video games, but escaping orbit into just general pop culture. Just to put some numbers behind that, in the entire world, the Sega Genesis, which was released in 1989, sold about 2 million copies worldwide pre-Sonic. The number that it sold post-Sonic hit 30 million.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
and Lenore, what were those numbers you were saying about the price of a Genesis?
Oh yeah, well at least in Europe, I think it was retailing at like $190, which in today's money is like over $700.
Yeah,
Sure.
190
God.
pounds.
So yeah, these people are dropping over $700, the equivalent on a
And
Sega Genesis by the millions.
They were not buying it for the Genesis. They were buying it for Sonic. I want to be extremely clear here. People were dropping the equivalent of a PS5 Pro today to play the first Sonic the Hedgehog game.
I mean,
As they should.
People spend lots of money on various Sonic-related media today.
They were the first and only company up until the PS2 to outsell Nintendo in home consoles.
Wow.
The Super Nintendo, the SNES, is remembered so much more fondly than the Sega Genesis, but the Sega Genesis outsold it every single year after the
wild.
release of Sonic. Yeah, it is really, really hard to understate how wildly influential Sonic was in the 90s.
You just end up getting bigger too.
Exactly. If you look at the sales numbers, it just keeps increasing and increasing and increasing. And
Inflating, you might say?
No, that comes later, actually.
Excuse me.
So here's where we start getting into modern Sonic. So 90s Sonic is very different from the Sonic of today. He's very round. He's very mascot looking. If you pull up images of the original Sonic the Hedgehog, it looks like a guy in a costume. It's because Japan has a
Mickey Mouse-esque.
Exactly. He was explicitly designed to be marketable. Like I said, explicitly designed to be a competitor mascot to Mario.
He wasn't
Not
yet
the
sexy.
last time he would be explicitly designed, I'll tell you that.
I swear to God.
Boy, are we going to get into explicit design for Sonic characters in this episode.
Oh no.
But the reason wasn't just because of character design. It also had a lot to do with game design. So again, the main comparison for this is Mario, which was a 2D platformer, which had a heavy emphasis on moment-to-moment, precision point 2D platforming. Sonic kind of said, we don't need to be precise as long as it's cool and fast, and we can lend our level design more towards playing it over and over and over to get a feel for it to go as fast as possible, instead of having a pleasant trip through Mario just once and then maybe playing it once or twice again, which is even something you see today with Sonic, with having a bit more of an obsessive fan base. But as the
Mhm.
90s trudged on, you saw Sonic kind of change with the times. We'll get into this more as we talk about Penders, because Penders had something of an influence with the design choices that were made for Sonic. Now, it's hard to say that he was leading the charge with this, because at every turn, the comics absolutely were tailing the games with
Tailsing.
Tailsing, yes, trudging on at mere miles per hour
Mm-hmm.
in
Yeah, Mars.
comparison to the game. So eventually Sonic just became the video game equivalent of riding a skateboard, is what I have written down. He got a much more streamlined design. He looked a lot more aerodynamic. By the late 90s, he was hitting the hardest poses ever conceived. The sculptors of the Renaissance could only dream of the poses that Sonic was hitting in 1999. They did have a few stinkers. It wasn't like just a straight rise to the top. Like notoriously, their transition to 3D was extremely rocky.
I was going
With
to say, like,
Mhm.
the emphasis on speed over precision has followed the games to the present day, for better or for worse.
very often for worse. Very often for worse. For example, it was a very natural transition to make a racing game, which was kind of a sign of things to come with Sonic R. It was a very universally panned game of having shoddy development, a very unclear creative direction, baffling soundtrack choices, etc. And the just
Can you feel the sunshine?
I can. It won't go away.
Uh, Harry
games
Sunshine,
like
Sunshine and Sonic are only darkness.
I mean, in retrospect, it brightens up my day. But Sonic 3D sold so poorly that a video game titled Sonic X-Stream, stylized as X-Tream, got canceled, which kind of led to a shift in the creative direction of Sonic. And this is where, keep in mind, in the background, Penders has been writing the Sonic comics throughout all of this. Sonic starts getting a lot more story driven. Like, it had a story, but it wasn't as maybe in the foreground. It starts getting a lot more melodramatic. It starts getting a lot more character focused. They start implementing a lot more lore. And out of this is born Sonic Adventure. This was a game released for the Dreamcast, which had the basic exact same story as the Genesis, where it sold extremely poorly, or not extremely poorly, but was barely keeping itself afloat up until the release of Sonic Adventure, where it broke sales records for the console and kept the console afloat entirely, which kind of cemented the direction that Sonic was going. The last time that it would break that sort of record was with Sonic Adventure 2. My personal favorite Sonic game, as my favorite character is Shadow the Hedgehog. In fact, perhaps the
Same.
most relevant fictional character ever created. Really, what kind of is Journey to the West? Or, the Odyssey when you're comparing it to Sonic Adventure 2? Honestly, they just kind of pale in comparison. But Sonic Adventure 2 was the highest performing third-party game on the GameCube.
Right. You've got like which is like Homer writing the Iliad, and he's kind of looking over to the next desk and sees Sonic Adventure 2, and he's taking notes.
I'm just saying, like, if Odysseus could have used Chaos Control, it wouldn't have taken him 20 years to get back to Ithaca.
I know, right?
And just to wrap this up, so at this point, Sonic Team Sega was very much in the lane of, okay, this is what Sonic is now. This is what's selling our comics. This is what's selling our games. This is the direction the series is heading, which led to the release of the Shadow the Hedgehog game in 2005. The first video
Let's
game
go.
that taught me as a child that video games could be bad. Now, I loved that game. It is still one of my favorites, but oh boy. And then came Sonic the Hedgehog 2006,
Oh
which
boy.
The dream.
Yes.
The dream was cast away, is my understanding.
So at this point, Sonic had started kind of flying under the radar in general consciousness. It was no longer the intellectual property powerhouse that it had been in the 90s.
Well,
And this,
the Bush administration was in power. So, famously what? Spyro was based on George W. Bush. So,
They
and
couldn't use movies anymore.
there wasn't much else to think about or do in 2006
that's
besides
true.
waiting for the next Sonic the Hedgehog game.
That's
Um,
true.
And it launched Sonic back into the popular conscience in probably the worst possible way. This was a game notoriously panned for having game-breaking glitches. It was almost unplayable even on a casual playthrough. You would spend like 2 minutes in loading screens just to die to an unavoidable glitch and then soft lock your game to have to restart the whole level.
Jesus.
Like it was not fun to play, and it brought kind of the direction that Sonic was undergoing to the forefront that wasn't really prevalent in the last time that Sonic was possible or popular, which was the extreme melodrama of the series. Like one of the strengths of Sonic as a series for me is that it's clearly made for kids. Like it's got characters with big expressions. They look directly at the camera and tell you how they're feeling. It's very well explained. It's easy to follow, but it's not afraid to shy away from like big
This is
events
how it
happening.
feels to be Rouge the Bat right now.
Yeah, like major characters will die on screen. It's not like it's appealing to kids, but not infantilizing its audience in a way, which is kind of something missing from, or not missing, but not the most popular thing in the world when it comes to just a boardroom full of shareholders thinking up what slop can we show to kids because they have no taste anyway. Which is kind of how Sonic enters its cringe era, as I like to call it. Not because Sonic became more cringe. Sonic has always been cringe. It's the good part of Sonic. It's that people who weren't in the Sonic fandom kind of remembered that Sonic is cringe, and you started getting a lot of secondhand exposure in the form of like people making ironic, cringy Sonic stuff and spreading it around, and then people thinking that that's what the Sonic fandom is like.
Cold Steel the Hedgehog.
Exactly.
Nothing personal,
9-inch
kid.
nail. 9-inch nail. Banned. Also likes 9-inch nail on finger.
Idalia.
Oh, I thought you were talking about 9-inch snail, like that's a character.
It should be. It should be.
It should
But
be.
Ryan, my question is, the last question I have on this is, when is the next Sega console going to come out?
Hopefully very soon, because as history shows us, that's when we get the next actually good Sonic game.
The Sega
Uh,
Wishcast.
And not all Sonic games were bad after that. Like a lot of people in the Sonic fandom will tell you that like Unleashed was their favorite game. Like
Mine. It's
exactly.
my favorite game too.
There's
I-
actually a Sonic Unleashed comic in what we read this week.
So that kind of leads us into the modern day with Sonic. It has reclaimed some goodwill through not necessarily through its games. Well, one game it received some goodwill through was Sonic Mania. Sonic Mania was kind of a return to form that helped people remember that the early Sonic games were good. There's an entire fan redevelopment of Sonic 2006 called PO6, which I heavily recommend checking out. The reason Sonic 06 was bad was because Sega shareholders were extremely greedy and wanted to work Sonic Team to the bone
That
and
sounds
rush out a
right.
game. Exactly.
They wanted to
Sonic,
like rush it out for Christmas sales. That's what really led to their downfall.
it's a good game if, basic elements would have worked, and the reason that they didn't work was because they were on a shoestring budget, extremely overworked, being
If
pushed
they
out for
fleshed out
shareholder profits. Yeah.
if they fleshed out Elise's character and they didn't add like that weird romance storyline between her and Sonic, because that was just a whole weird little
No,
thing they had on.
no. Elise and Sonic making out on screen had to happen. There was no
Oh,
way around
God.
it.
Oh,
I mean,
Lord.
hey, the fans are going to do it anyway. You might as well lean into it, right?
But in the
Oh,
modern
boy.
day, we have the Sonic movies coming out. We have the Snapcube dubs, which if you have not heard of or listened to, I so extremely recommend watching them. They are genuinely the funniest things ever made. But in that section I was talking about leading up to the release of Sonic 06, all the way from Sonic 3 to the release of Shadow the Hedgehog, was when the subject of this episode, Ken Penders, was pendering the Sonic comics.
Yep.
Tay, do you
Shout
want
out
us
Ken
to
Penders.
let us know about Ken Penders, our author this week? Was he also based on Bill Clinton? At this
I
point,
don't.
Bill Clinton could be anywhere, you know? He could
He
be
could be
in the
lurking in the
closet,
shadows.
he could
He's
be
right
under.
here.
Yeah, I know, moving incredibly quickly. He's
Oh
like
God.
he's got the Chaos Emerald.
He's
Oh,
Lenore's
Obama.
roommate.
I do remember the video that went like completely viral of Obama being like, you mean the Chaos Emeralds? Because
Chaos
I got them
control.
right here. The Chaos Emeralds. But yeah,
Okay.
tell us about Ken Penders.
Our boy Ken Penders. He was a Sonic artist who worked for Archie Comics between 1993 to 2006. And he is well known for having a very interesting art style contributed to his stories. His plethora of characters that he incorporated to the stories, over 200 characters, most of which is just echidna characters, because for some reason he has an absolute love and obsession for Knuckles, which, if that's his comfort character, understandable. But his obsession with Knuckles gets a little weird if
And
you
this
take
was
a look
before,
at
you
his
know,
history.
when Knuckles was Idris Elba is introduced, you know, I can understand that. But pre Idris Elba Knuckles, you know, maybe I can't wrap my head around it. I don't know. I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
I'm also maybe not operating in Ken Pender's headspace here.
Yes, and Ken Penders within the Sonic community is very well known to be a very controversial figure due to his strange choice of storylines and his over pretty much obsession with him wanting to take control of his work, pretty much speaking on behalf of Sega, saying, "Hey, that's my property. You can't take it," even though he has taken heavy inspiration from other media like 2001 Space Odyssey and Sailor Moon. And the fact that he is not very well liked in the Sonic community due to his very strange behavior.
Yeah, there's some decidedly more problematic inspiration that he seems to have taken in the Knuckles comic that we read today that we'll get into, isn't there?
Oh
Yes,
boy.
Yeah, I was gonna
that
say, I
was a
wish it was
choice.
just 2001 and Space Odyssey.
If I may say about Ken Pender's art, I want to say, as an artist, not trying to toot my own horn, because I'm an amateur artist, and I don't really like to say that, oh, people's art style is very ugly. However, I will say that his use of shading with the black line art in a comic style, that's really good. That's the way of shading that I wish I could achieve. Him
Don't
executing his his human anatomy to Sonic characters, it does not translate well, in my opinion.
Boy, does he draw human anatomy for Sonic characters, let me tell you.
Does anyone here know how Ken Penders got his start in art? Because I do have this factoid,
I
and it is
don't.
fascinating.
Go for it.
He was an illustrator for the U.S. Air Force. Was his first paid art gig.
Yeah, he was in the
You
military.
know what? I
He was-
could absolutely believe that.
I'm in a Discord, like the game that I used to work on, right? I'm in a Discord with like the whole fan community for this game. It's a like military waifu game, you know, basically America's answer to Azur Lane. And yeah, military people they're some of the horniest and like most specifically horniest people that you'll ever meet.
Well, he was a technical illustrator for the Air Force, and then he went on to work on the Star Trek Next Generation comic series, all kinds of stuff. But of course, Sonic the Hedgehog, he hopped on in '93 and was like working there for quite a while. So I think he was there until like 2006 or something like that. Very long time.
Yes.
So
January of 2006, just before the release of Sonic 06. Never a better time to make a career move away from Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh yes, but they didn't hear the last of Ken Penders even after he left, because the lawsuits that kept getting open with him, all the back and forth that was going on between him, Sega, and Archie, it was just, I can imagine working with Ken Penders was an absolute nightmare, if I'm being
Well,
completely honest.
who is he suing exactly, Tay?
Well, there was this one company called BioWare, I believe.
Mhm.
They worked on this game called Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood. I have not
Oh.
personally played the game, but I done some research into that game, and it is pretty much based on the fact that Knuckles is missing, if I remember correctly, and they find out about a hidden echidna tribe because Knuckles is supposed to be the last of his kind, but they find a
Mhm.
new tribe of echidnas, and they have this clan called the Dark Brotherhood. Excuse me, Pierre. I'm sorry, my cat is being a menace. But they find this clan called the Dark Brotherhood. One of these characters is named Shade the Echidna, and Ken Penders threw a huge fit, thinking that they ripped off his Echidna storyline, even though they did not incorporate any characters that he had created for his comics. He tried to say that Shade was a ripoff of Julie Sue, which is one of his characters, who is Knuckles' girlfriend. And he pretty much tried to sue them, claiming that they committed copyright infringement. Tons and tons of cases got reopened and closed, and eventually it was settled that Camp Penders would receive any royalties from Archie specifically if his characters were used or mentioned. And they decided, because Penders was no longer working for them, that they would erase all of his created characters during this Mega Man and Sonic crossover and wiped out all 200 of his characters and pretty much did a whole retcon and changing of canon. So, like, Julie Sue was erased, all the characters from the Dark Mobius series, all of his wacky echidna characters, pretty much everyone that was associated with Ken Penders completely gone.
Well, I'm looking through like his old Twitter posts, and like he said in 2015, when he was like mad about something, he said, and again, this has been like, almost 10 years since he's worked there. He said, "Don't blame me for what happens next," in response to an Archie Comics post about doing reprints of a run. And then after the Sonic 2 came out, he threatened to file a lawsuit over something that happened with a movie. But then he just like didn't do it. But then since being asked, he says the attorneys are hashing it out. So he also seems to be a little bit of a bullshitter on that front. If there's like a number of like threatened lawsuits that like he maybe just didn't have the steam for.
His
But
lawyer is probably just like, Ken, for the love of God, please take a breath.
he was probably mad that they didn't go with his idea for a movie. I saw the
Yeah,
trailer. It was really good.
actually,
Oh, Christ. The one that was voiced
yes, he
by
was actually mad.
well, who voiced Sonic in that trailer for Sonic Armageddon? Was it his child?
I think it was his child, if my memory serves correct. I think it was his son who did the voice for Sonic.
What's he doing now?
I'm not sure. I don't really want to stalk the lives of Ken Pender's children, but it was. I can see where it was wholesome him trying to incorporate his children into it, but knowing the kind of person Ken Penders is, just.
It's just so profoundly weird to me, right? That he's got this fixation on Knuckles, right? And on the whole like Echidna
Mhm.
like backstory specifically. And like I haven't looked up too much about him, but apparently like he retcons them into this alien race that's like almost echidnas but not quite. It's just, how do you find this out about yourself, and how do you make it your life's crusade to tell this story in this very specific way?
So I can actually flesh that out a little bit with a bit more Pender's backstory. So yes, he was in the military. I believe his father was also in the military, but he grew up largely without his father, which he states played a or had a very big impact on him. And evidently he did. He has committed, of all the things you can say about Penders, you cannot say he is neglectful of his children. He
Yeah.
loves his kids to death. He
I'm
loves
sure.
Sonic to death, and he attempts to marry those two things a lot. And you'll kind of see that if you have that in mind and you read the Sonic comics, you kind of put that together, how much emphasis or how much importance he places on the relationship between fathers and children, family in general, family strife that occurs in the plot. There is a
Yeah.
reason that there is like a Silmarillion level of backstory to just the echidnas. Like, Google echidna family tree right now and you'll see what I'm talking about. And that also led him to be extremely protective of his work. He took it very personally. He was not an easy person to work with.
sorry, if I may add on, there were also some instances in the comics where he tried to incorporate storylines that were just not suited for children.
Oh
Like
boy,
I
yeah,
found this one tweet by Ken Penders. He said,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
quote, "The one story I couldn't tell was Sally, a 16-year-old, losing her virginity to Joffrey, who was canonically 20. Sonic may be fast, but Joffrey was faster on the draw on that department." I'm like, dude, first of all, Joffrey is a piece of shit. Second of all, that's a child. That's an adult. That's icky.
And lest we forget, they're fucking animals.
Yeah, we are talking
Yeah, you
about
bet
a
they are.
skunk, and we are talking about a skunk and a squirrel here. But yeah, no, the Sonic comics are also very horny. Like, oh my god, so horny.
Literally.
And that's not just the Penders comics either. If you look through them, like that's a running theme. Now, Penders certainly
Well,
has
it's
his
kind of
own.
because of him.
Yeah, it's his influence, you say?
Oh yeah, like I was talking about earlier, how Sonic was taking this direction towards like heavy character drama, like extensive backstory. Part of that was just at least in the comics, more so in the games, just the general horniness. Like they were not afraid. They were not
There's
afraid to like
there's a
depict
whole like
relationships on screen.
if you look at the Sonic wiki for like specifically Archie Sonic, like he has his own section of all the girls he has been in relationships with, like Sally, Mina Mongoose, Amy, and God, there's several other characters that he was in relationships to. Bunny Rabbit and this other girl, Fiona Fox, who's a bitch. Just the list goes on. Like Sonic goes around.
I want to
And
also point out, like, the tone of Sonic as like an IP has been everywhere in it throughout its history. You know, not,
mhm.
and I'm no
Mhm.
expert on it certainly, but like it's had melancholy, it's had like it's human drama, family drama as you say. But in microcosm, I see that in the Echidna family tree, which I'm looking at now, because there's not really there's a few linguistic ticks here and there to the names, like you have Lara Sue, Julie Sue, Lienda, Merinda, but you also have names like Spectre, Thunderhawk, Rembrandt, Harlan,
Rembrandt.
Moonwatcher, Steppenwolf. Knuckles' like 13th great grandfather is Steppenwolf the Echidna. What are we doing here?
We are
There's just
delving
so
deep into the
many.
mind of Ken Penders. And
Do we
just to
think
wrap,
that Ken Penders is Stealth, the guy who made top 10 hottest female Sonic characters, the video?
Oh
he
Lord.
made the characters. I don't
That's
know what you
true.
mean,
I mean,
Stell.
I
The
think Julie Sue is on that list too, who is from the comics, if my memory serves correctly. But she's like 16 too,
I'm a
so
big
that's
fan of the phrase "the size of an average human
Oh,
mother."
oh my God, oh my God. Okay, so I just Googled Julie Sue, right?
Yeah.
Let me
yeah.
read you, let me read from the following Wikipedia article. Julie A. Sue is an American attorney and government official who is serving as acting United States Secretary of Labor since 2023 and the 37th United States Deputy Secretary of Labor since 2021.
She was in a
I know,
Sonic
right?
game.
Yeah, clearly, our first Echidna Secretary of Labor.
Then they say Joe Biden's not a progressive. He appointed the
I know,
first
right?
echidna to office.
Oh my
I
God.
That's why we're gonna vote for Joe Biden in 2024. That's right, folks. We're writing in Joe Biden. I don't care. No, okay. That's a dumb. I've done the
If you
bit
want
before.
two Echidnas in the cabinet.
He will appoint another echidna. Yeah.
See, Kamala Harris is going to put a Republican in her cabinet. Joe Biden's going to put in another Echidna. The choice makes itself.
The
And
choice could not be more clear.
famously, as we'll get into, echidnas have never committed a genocide, not even once.
Not even genocides, not even once.
Mm-hmm.
But
Not even once.
just to wrap it up on the Penders backstory front, I will kind of play devil's advocate a little bit. He was screwed over by Archie. Like Archie
Mhm.
was an
Yeah.
incredibly IP hungry company. They were not a very well run company. Like for example, a big argument in that lawsuit was, did they even remember to get him to sign a work for hire contract, and at one point were alleged to have forged that contract
Oh
Wow.
and
wow.
presented it
Oh
into
Lord.
evidence. Like there's
I have
10 million.
question I have questions
There's
about like Sega, like even allowing like that to be run so
it is
poorly with their like
baffling.
flagship mascot.
It is baffling to me that Archie had the comics for as long as they did, up to 2018
Wow.
with like the shit. But you know, Sega is a company, as you may have gleaned from my description of how Sonic 06 turned out the way it did. It is run by shareholders in boardrooms. It is not run by its creatives. They care about return on
Mhm.
investment
Mhm.
and very little else. And the comics were selling, the games were selling. They didn't care about much else. It took until
Uh,
2018 and multiple lawsuits for them to finally tighten their grip on their IP a little
a,
bit.
a little bonus fact about that too. The Sonic Archie comics hold the Genesis World Record for longest comic series based on a video game, which take with that what you will.
So worth noting,
Yeah.
like as we get into this week's media, um, I am a rank newbie when it comes to. I've played a few of the games, of course, but my only experience with any of the Sonic like comic book characters is fan fiction because
Yeah.
they're actually the same year that that Sonic 06 came out, was when this particular story was written. There was a fan fiction trend when I was like in middle school where like if there's a game or some other IP with like a large ensemble cast, like some people sometimes would write the Princess Bride and just like shadow cast in like the characters from whatever, right? Somebody did a Super Smash Brothers Princess Bride, right, for example. And I'm looking at the story right here now, and Amy is the Princess Bride from March 2006. If you're wondering, Shadow plays Wesley, and there's a comic character, Antoine, who plays the prince. Uh,
Oh, Antoine de Colette. I love him.
yes, yes, and the
This
author's
person clearly didn't if they made Prince Humperdinck. It's not very nice.
How could y'all
author's
do that to
note,
my boy Antoine?
Antoine is from the comic books. If you've never read them, just use your imagination.
I love just the fan fiction. Authors just love to say fuck you sometimes.
Yeah.
Like they're just like, yeah,
Yeah.
no, figure it out,
So,
jackass.
so I had, as you can probably tell, no grounding in anything that would have taught me what to expect.
And just
See,
bear in mind as we continue, this is Ken Pender's vision. Like he lived and breathed this shit. Like as we'll get into, a lot of the comics not even written by him, really you could mistake them for Penders due
That's
to his
see that
influence,
that's what surprised me because
for
like
better or
so
for worse.
most of them, there's only one. Um, well, no, I'll say in this first issue we have here, Sonic 134, right? There's two stories. One of them is written by Ken Penders, the Knuckles 25 years later one, obviously. But the other one, the main story, is written by a guy named Carl Ballers, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
And
then
famously, Carl Ballers was the one they were trying to hand the series off to when everybody was getting sick of working with Penders. Um,
Oh my
which is why he is writing the 25 years later plotline because they couldn't get rid of Penders, but they like also kind of didn't want him to go. It's a huge mess. There's 10 million YouTube videos written about it. But also Ballers came back and vouched for Penders in the lawsuits. They were like, yeah, Archie can be a shit company to work for. Like they steal the things you make. They exploit you heavily. Like a lot of the people who were like, I hate working with this guy at the time that Penders was employed by Archie really came back to bat for him when it came to like, hey, we are all artists at the end of the day and we're being screwed over by this IP owner.
my
yeah,
understanding is Eggman did
Yeah.
testify. Yeah, I'm
Oh
under the impression
Lord.
Eggman did actually show up to testify.
Eggman, Dr. Robotnik himself, yeah.
It's true.
Do we want to launch
He has
into
standards when it comes to
134?
supporting artists.
Yes. Sonic 134 is a good like benchmark of like how these Sonic comics, like how they operate. There's a lot of lore going on. There's a lot of shit. Like we don't have to get into all of that, but the general overview of this plot is like Sonic has returned from space. It was a very brief trip for him, but for others a year has passed and he's showing up in this like kingdom. There's an ongoing war and you just are like, if you're like me and you know nothing about the lore, you were just like, I thought Sonic was about like a little guy who like runs up tubes. Like holy shit, they're talking about a war. They're talking about time dilation. They're talking about there's like a monarchy and they're deciding who's succeeding. Sonic is apparently a fucking the prince consort or some shit. Tails is looking for his parents. I was like, my extent of my knowledge is like I know what the games are. I played Mario and Sonic Olympic games, so I know if you the right place to push X to make Sonic throw the javelin really far. And you know, I know the movie where Ben Schwartz voices Sonic. This was blowing my mind that this was like I was like, oh, like we've stepped into the Sonic verse. This is crazy. I really did not expect what I walked into here. I'm
And
not gonna lie.
your Sonic game experience being from Mario and Sonic in the Olympic Games places you in the majority of people who heard of Silver the Hedgehog through that franchise instead of any other Sonic game. Silver fans get fucked.
I
Oh, they
mean,
did him
it's
so dirty in the comics.
They did.
I love Silver. He is my baby boy, but he got done so dirty.
Sorry,
well,
we just
I mean, he came in second place
That's
because he's
true.
silver.
Because he was Silver the Hedgehog. I do know there was a really there's a really good there's a really good quote I have from Sonic 134 though. My name is Mina. Ooh, baby, a mongoose. Not just another Tina. People call me Songoose. Trapped in a cage. No matter what I do. When I'm thinking about you, even the stage turns blue. And I really think that says it all.
Yeah.
I mean, Songoose is some shit that I would write.
Songoose goes pretty hard, I'm not gonna lie.
Mongoose.
was that
I'm just-
before was that before or after they launched the firework depicting
Before.
Sonic shoving
think-
his
yeah, that
tongue
was
down
before.
Sally Acorn's throat?
Oh,
That's-
I'm looking at the art too, and I can see like one section where they forgot to draw Sonic's ears on this frame. That's bothering me so much more than it should.
Oh my God, is he off model?
Oh my god,
Yes,
yeah,
he's
I'm
off
seeing
model.
it.
Oh, y'all want to know a little fun fact about Antoine in this frame I found where the king is talking about making him commander?
Let's go for it.
Yeah, that's not Antoine. That's his evil anti-verse from Scourge's world, who pretty much is holding Antoine captive, I think. And he
Oh.
attempts to poison the king, pretty much. And blah blah blah, battles happen, and they yoink him back to Scourge's world, and then he becomes Scourge's problem. Which, other side note, as bad as the character he's written, Scourge is my favorite villain.
So
He's
as
one of my favorite Kim Penders.
How silly of me to not know one from the other.
Yeah, I can't believe I didn't notice that.
so
Silly gooses.
the basic plot of Sonic 134 is that Sonic has just returned from having fought off some enemy or another, I believe Eggman.
Actually,
but,
it's not Eggman. It's like a whole other alien race that Eggman didn't even know about, who were gonna go try to kill the people on that planet because apparently the people, which were called Overlanders, had done experiments on their kind. I don't remember what they're called, but they're like these big brain monsters. It was actually a pretty scary arc, and Sonic makes the ultimate sacrifice to destroy them. But as a result, it ends up pretty much sending him across space, and he gets saved by this other alien race who also in turn saves Shadow. Keep in mind, it has been a good while since I've read the comics too, so I'm hoping I'm giving the correct information.
and
I
this
would
will-
not know if you weren't. I'll
And
tell
this-
you that.
This will all be on the test, listeners.
Yes.
Um,
I
To be
do
clear,
wanna-
this character is based on Bill Clinton. Go ahead, Lenore.
Well, I do want to draw attention to the art here, right? Michael Higgins is the inker, Jason Jensen is the colorist, and like the environments I find are really vibrant, you know. You've got the Royal Infirmary that he wakes up in, overseen by a doctor named Dr. Quack, who is a duck.
Classic.
Yes.
Quack.
And it's got
Yeah.
this kind of like open air, like, you know, Lothlorien thing going on, right? It's like platforms built around trees and stuff. It's very it's very it's a compelling setting. But you can also see immediately the attention that Sega has to its other properties, right, and to its history. Like there's on a screen there's the name Billy Hatcher, right? That's from Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg, right? You can see an X-ray of this like jester looking character who's Knights from like the Knights games, right? And so it's there's a lot of stuff for the real heads to follow that's not just Sonic lore.
My take on it as someone who really knows nothing about this is if I'm like just imagining what a video game, right? Especially a video game with as much passion in it, what its comic adaptation would be, there's like two ways you take it, right? You could take it one way where it's just like completely, very character driven, you do your own thing and you really have no connection to the video game. Or you go just balls to the walls, throw everything at it. And like, of course you're gonna do that because it's Sonic, and Sonic is about speed. It's not about precision, right? I mean, Ryan was saying it earlier. It was about like, who can we just like have a good time, even if we're not precise, even if we're like tripping over our own, feet. And this style like here is it's just throwing color at you and characters and concepts in such a way that like as something that it's completely inaccessible to me, but I'm not having a bad time at all. I'm like laughing, I'm having fun. I'm looking at this. There's so much color. There's so much life and vibrancy in it. It's everything that what I would hope a Sonic comic to be as like a complete outsider. So I actually really liked like 134 as like kind of an example of what the sort of Archie Sonic comics are. As like, is it like a work of high art? No, but it's like what it's got like the spirit of just like gotta go fast, and like in that also includes throwing throwing plot threads at you. And if you don't pick up on all of them, it's fine because look at this like pretty image.
Plot threads such as like old war wounds, right? The actual
Mhm.
physical costs of war, like from Dr. Quack talking about why he has an eye patch here. Okay, I guess. Say, Doc, I was away for a whole year and so many things changed while I was gone. We were at war with Eggman, not whole village became a city, and, well, you're different too. What happened? You mean this here, Shiner?
Oh,
Accidentally stepped on a landmine while tending to the wounded in battle. Since that day, the king insisted I take up my old post as royal physician. No more front lines for this old bird. Landmines in fucking Sonic the Hedgehog. Like, can we just marinate in that
would
for a
not
moment?
expect that.
And yeah, just to like be the Ken Penders devil advocate again, we kind of have him to thank for this. Like the comics were more or less conceived as just advertisements for the game. Like with the same
Yeah.
like cynicism of like the G.I. Joe cartoon trying to get kids in the 80s to buy the like plastic toys. Like that's all this comic needed to be.
Right.
But because like people love Sonic and specifically Ken Penders loves Sonic, it like really blossomed into this thing it maybe shouldn't have been, but ended up being, and that's beautiful.
There is something nice about like when it feels there's always like it happens now and again, like art that can like bloom when it feels like the like bosses aren't watching,
Yeah.
like when it feels like the corporation has just kind of forgotten about it, like just the shit that can happen. It happens sometimes with these like knockoff novels. It happened with the entire Star Wars expanded universe feels this way prior to the Disney acquisition. You've just got so much just stuff that people can do. And sometimes like it leads to the greatest things ever, and sometimes it's the worst things ever. And it is like often these like spin-offs of bigger things. You just have these things that are like, you can call it gems, you can call it what it is, but it's just like they found a guy, in this case, Ken Penders, who really, really liked these characters for whatever reason, however his brain is wired. And he just like, and the people around him just ran with it and made this just bizarre world. All building up to, Sally Acorn, who I don't know who that is. She's a queen or a princess or something, slapping the shit out of Sonic.
Yeah, Jesus.
Yes.
Tay,
That
do you
was
understand
a-
why is this happening? Why is there domestic abuse in my Sonic comics? What's happening, Tay?
I would say probably men writing a relationship and executing it very poorly.
That explains why Sally's tits are just flopping all around in the entirety of this
The
comic.
way they
Also
draw
that.
her and like the way they draw her in certain frames are just so unappealing in this
It's
Well,
so
comic,
egregious. It's
especially
so
when
And
egregious.
she
she's so much
slaps him
sexier on
and
the cover.
God
oh
damn
my
it.
god.
Tay, why is the slap
Yes.
happening?
Well, to give a little backstory on Sally Acorn as a character, she
Because
was
they already give us
introduced
a lot
in
of front
the
story. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
yeah.
Dumb joke.
No, you're good. But she's a character who was from the original Sonic Sat AM TV show, which was a big thing in the 90s. It is considered a big cult classic. A lot of Sonic fans love it. I need to catch up on it, but that's pretty much how a lot of fans know her. And there was a lot of fade on what they were really going for Sally's character, and they were pretty much just trying to have like a whole dramatic storyline between her and Sonic because it was always said that they were going to be romantically involved. But what ended up happening in this comic, of course, is that because she was so traumatized by Sonic being gone for a year and believed to have been dead, she wanted him pretty much to stay, give up his heroism, so that way they can pretty much get married early. But when he pretty much said no, how they have a war to fight, that's when she got pissed and slapped the shit out of him. Which, in my opinion, that from what I have seen with Sally's character, is, I hate to say this because it's gonna sound wrong. It is out of character for Sally for her to slap him like that. To be upset, absolutely understandable. But to slap him and call him selfish when he is trying to help save all these people, it feels out of place for Sally as a character.
There you have it. But like, and I actually have seen this image before in memes. So it was like nice to see the origin.
Wait, what?
I
Sonic
don't know
getting
if
slapped?
yes, I've seen the Sonic getting slapped. It's look, I'm just saying there was for a long time the Batman slap meme was popular, but this one you can see this one is a wallop. It really has they really wanted to make it clear that like Sonic got his shit rocked. It's pretty
There's a nuclear
interesting.
explosion in the background, you know?
It's going off.
Yeah.
It's going off.
I really don't know why they were going for that kind of dramatic story writing because personally, I would like to see some more dramatic stories incorporated into the Sonic universe, kind of like how the movie executed it. But again, I'm not an expert in any writing literacy whatsoever. But to see someone as like cool, calm, collected as Sally, and to see how her slapping him is so dramatized like this, it felt like it was a little unnecessary for the story and it left a bigger impact on their relationship more than it really should have.
I will say it's fascinating though that like we are in a position where we're talking about the 135th Sonic comic and like domestic abuse in a Sonic situation. Like the fact that we're even in that dynamic is we
Literally.
are all in the Penderverse. That
This
is no doubt.
Well, and speaking of problematic dynamics, early on, it's revealed by Dr. Quack that Sonic has like universal translator like integrated into his nervous system as a result of like his adventures in space or whatever. Um, and
Mhm.
partway through, it doesn't really have any bearing on what happens in the rest of the comic, but now he can understand his dog when he speaks. Sonic has a dog named Mutsky.
Yeah, what determines what animal is a pet and what animal is a person?
It's the fucking Disney thing, yeah.
I believe is that if you can speak and walk on two legs, then yeah, that requires you to be a Mobian citizen.
But now you can communicate with Mutsky, so like, can he still be a pet? Is he an equal member of the family?
That's
Muskie
just gonna
seems
be
fine.
having some shit to talk about Sonic's family to Sonic.
Look, Mutsky doesn't want to pay taxes. That's what it comes down to. That we're as a
Right.
supposedly political podcast, we do have to get into the tax policy of this Acorn City. My understanding is that it's sort of no, I don't even have a good
Well,
bit there.
Sonic has never progressed beyond monarchistic feudalist property relations.
Techno feudalism IRL, not
So
just it's
on the
not just for
subject
Reddit
of
anymore.
on the subject of monarchism, there is, I don't know if there's a like fan comic or just like a joke comic um at the end of this issue, but it's Sonic literally getting the One Ring and Gandalf grabbing it away from him. Did y'all read that far?
No?
Oh my god.
Oh my God, it's I guess it's Sonic's talking to, I guess it's the cartoonist, but he's like, "Yo, JG, check out this awesome magic ring I collected. Wow, let me see it. Give me that." Grab. And it's Gandalf storming off, going, "First it's dwarves, then elves, now hedgehogs." Humph.
I love
You
that.
don't suppose that was, if it was, there's precious little we can do about it.
For any shelfers disappointed that this isn't the Return of the King episode, yes it is.
And Sonic becomes the new
Sonic.
Dark Lord.
Yeah, we will be this surprise. This was Tolkien the whole time. Ken Penders, alternate name J.R.R. Tolkien. They have the same obsession with lore.
J.R.R. Tolkien Penders?
Let's go. Okay, on that note,
It's all
I
coming
Best
together.
plot twist since Mephiles killed Sonic.
On that note, I have something that I want to read to y'all
Yes.
that I think is really meaningful to me.
Okay.
This is really heavy. The Dark Legion was never defeated. We were stabbed in the back by the weak and greedy in power. The true Echidna civilization is destined to rule the world of Mobius. Only a strong leader, such as myself, can save Echidnopolis from the radicals and techno-conservatives who would wish us back into the Stone Age. Because we are now moving into the brain of Penders. We are now moving deeply into the soul of this thing, because we got Knuckles book 23 Dark Alliance on deck, and I'm really hype about this. I'm not gonna lie.
To go from Sonic 134 to Knuckles 23 and to see an Echidna character from the fucking Sonic the Hedgehog universe paraphrasing the anti-Semitic, anti-communist stab in the back myth on which like the Nazis founded their rise was maybe the most jarring shift I've ever had this year.
I mean, y'all saw
was-
the poem at the front, right?
It was
Oh,
really
God.
deep.
That was a choice.
So
And
the
he
setup
couldn't
here
come up
is
with
like,
an echidna name for this character.
right,
Would
it's a
anyone-
whole separate like timeline where there's this fucking Echidnapolis, and it's got this own elaborate political lore around technology, and there is a rising sort of right-wing Echidna coup supremacist that they're yelling long live technology. And let me see, what was the
They
quote?
say hail Dimitri because
Hail
I know he's like
Dimitri.
an important villain later.
Because why? Because he was like, well, what should I name my Hitler character? Dimitri. Absolutely rules.
Can I just say real quick in this frame that quote's from? I assume that's Locke. I don't know if that's a different echidna character. Why does this character look pregnant? I can tell that's a male character. Why does he look pregnant?
Now draw him pregnant, yeah.
I mean, Mpreg, Sonic, like, are we really so far off here?
Oh Lord,
There's
But,
plenty of that. But yeah, no,
I-
not impreg in my Sonic the Hedgehog comic.
my good Christian Sonic the Hedgehog comics.
Oh, we haven't even touched Sonic Christian fan art.
But yeah, like there's in this in
So
this
off the rails.
in this Knuckles issue, yeah, there's this like his name is Benedict. And there's this like Knuckles like ancestor, I guess, from a different like bloodline in his family who wants to go back to like I don't know, some what's the nature of the whole Civil War in the Echidnas here? Like some of them like technology, some of them don't.
I can give some background.
Let's
So,
get some background.
So
I think
first
this
of
is
all,
important.
I really don't want to gloss over this. This saga begins with the first they came for the communists, leading up to the, then they came for me and there was no one left to speak for me.
Oh my
But
God.
The Holocaust poem, yeah.
replacing like the words communists and Jews with like hedgehogs and echidnas, it's in bafflingly poor taste. But
It is
just
in
par for
very
the
much
course
poor
for Penders.
taste. Penders has tried pretty much to justify him using that quote. I don't know what he has said nowadays, but I know according to sources, he apparently had a Jewish friend who he like talked to and asked, "Hey, is this okay?"
Yeah.
And the Jewish said he had no problem with it. My partner, on the other hand, their family knew someone who actually was a Holocaust survivor who is unfortunately no longer with us. And when I told that to my partner, they were like, "That's not okay. That's disgusting. That's wrong. That's just so wrong." So take with that what you will, Penders.
Ken Penders said, I have a Jewish
I
friend.
have a
It's
Jewish
fine.
friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
Really
cast
put that
around
out.
maybe cast around beyond your like, immediate network if you're gonna do that sort of shit. Yeah.
So
Wow.
Mhm.
anyway, the background of the echidnas, they are much like the Germans in that they cannot be trusted with self-governance. every time it's tried, it ends with some horrible atrocity.
No. Next
Um,
time we're gonna break them up into
Right.
the 4, not just East and West Germany. We're gonna have North Germany and South Germany as well, and they'll fix it this
We're gonna
time.
have Hedgehog Germany, Squirrel Germany, Fox Germany, and I don't know, whatever the fuck what's his name? Boomer? Whatever the fuck he is.
This is sounding real
Boomer.
Dimitri fascist. Dimitrist.
the Soviet Union should not have stopped at the Mystic Ruins, is all I'll say
Yeah,
on that.
my cat with a Hitler mustache overheard and just straight up stared at me while we're talking about this too.
Fucking
Don't give him
yeah.
any ideas.
was there a
Deacidification.
Dresden? Was there a Dresden in like the Echidna world? Because it was fully justified. I'm defending everything
Well, I mean,
that happened.
but then, but if there was a kid in a Dresden, there had to have been like a, I don't know, fucking like Elephant Vonnegut or something.
That Elephant Vonnegut might be the name of the episode. But what were you saying, Ryan?
Anyway, back to the central
No,
conceit.
Vonnegut the elephant.
Back to the central conceit of the Echidnas.
Back to the central conceit of the Echidnas. Quote of the year. Go ahead.
They are an ancient race of people tasked with defending what's called the Master Emerald. Now,
I
Jesus.
don't like where this is going.
the Master Emerald is an artifact of great importance because one, you can draw extreme power from it, but also it's the only thing capable of sedating the power of the Chaos Emeralds, which are their own.
You mean the Chaos Emeralds? So I've got one right here.
I cannot wait to talk about the president in the Sonic universe. Anyway, so the Master Emerald contained this incredibly powerful being called Chaos. Chaos is a big water creature with a brain. There's so much more to that, but for the
Big
sake
drip,
of,
you might say.
for the sake of brevity, they were tasked with defending it, but eventually they got greedy. They wanted to use the Master Emerald's power for themselves, and they began conquering adjacent lands, committing horrible atrocities to neighboring forest creatures to expand the Echidna Empire. And eventually
my-
they committed a genocide against the Chows, which I implore you to look up what Chows look like as the
They get
victims of-
genocided?
Oh yeah, the Echidnas commit mass atrocity against the Chows as they were the oh god. The
They were like the offspring. I think offspring,
Yeah,
but they're like the
offspring's a good
same
word.
being as Chaos, which is like the water monster that is within the Master Emerald.
so yeah, they end up releasing Chaos. It ends up committing horrible atrocities, and it yada yada yada. There's so much that I'm skipping over, but the plot of Sonic Adventure 1
Probably
is
for
that
the best.
the plot of Sonic Adventure is that Chaos escapes in his most powerful form, known as Perfect Chaos. Sonic defeats him, and instead of completely destroying him in a way that would have destroyed the Master Emerald and the Echidnas and Angel Island that they're on, he ends up convincing him that Knuckles, the Echidna, is a true and just guardian for the Master Emerald, and Chaos kind of like chills the fuck out and says, "Oh, okay, cool, as long as, we're all cool now and are done with all this genociding." They aren't, but he believes it for the time. And Angel Island floats back up into the sky. I forgot to mention it's a giant island that fell out of the sky. And we have the remaining Echidnas who have this big schism between, do we stick to the ancient ways of embracing more or less tribalistic tradition that we have maintained this emerald with for centuries before we started engaging with modern notions of imperialism, or do we engage technology that would enrich our lives but led to us going down this dark path we're in now, which is where you see these two factions of pro and anti-technology Echidnas.
Sorry, real quick. Why the fuck did they do this? What kind
That's a
of
good question.
not whose idea is this? We know whose idea this was.
It wasn't Penders. This was from the games.
Oh, Jesus Christ, really?
That's what I'm saying. You can't give Penders credit for all of this. Sonic Team was coming up with this
I
shit
think it was
themselves
to
too.
just bring awareness to
Say again, Tay?
I think it's just to bring awareness about how do I put this? Because it's just fucking whack. It feels like they're I think that's what they were trying to go for, was just some kind of dark storyline. I guess too much consumption of power, it can lead to destruction of others. I guess wanting to tell a darker storyline.
You know, Frank Herbert
At
could
least that's
never
my
with the
tinfoil hat.
critique. With the critique, Frank Herbert, you know, wrote a whole story in Dune about how absolute power corrupts absolutely, no matter how good your intentions. And honestly, if Frank Herbert had just stuck around a little later, he would have not needed to write Dune. He would have seen this Sonic game. He would have seen Ken Penders, and he would have just and we would be having Sonic Armageddon would be having Dune budgets directed by Denis Villeneuve.
I
We would
mean,
be living in that timeline.
it's certainly like, Sonic has definitely, like, it's not just a Penders artifact of, Sonic media, Sonic characters winking at real life, in terms of quoting and like referring to, like, real people and historical events and whatnot,
Such
like,
as Bill Clinton.
yeah, exactly. Yes, the historical event of Bill Clinton. There's, in Sonic, which we also read 190 through 193, right? Sonic's like, oh, like, what, like a dork by any other name would be just as lame or something when he's taunting like Scourge the Hedgehog, like his evil version. Like, yeah, that's not out of character for the Sonic media, certainly, but like, this Echidna Hitler figure, like, it makes it all the more jarring to have that precedent in mind and then see this character literally, like, he's quoting John F. Kennedy, he's quoting George Wallace when he says technology now, technology forever. And of course, Hail Dimitri, like, Echidna Hitler.
And
Like,
then shortly afterwards, he sends a robot after him, and the
Ugh.
robot just says,
Oh my
"I'm the
god.
Terminator."
yeah,
And it's like,
The Terminator from Hillbilly Elegy, yeah.
yeah.
let's go.
They send Meemaw after him.
Oh my God,
Mamaw
Mama the
herself.
Hedgehog.
Mamaw the Hedgehog.
Aw.
Googling that.
Oh,
Goog-
Jacob, I have been so ready to tell you the conclusion of the Echidna Dingo conflict
We
plotline.
forgot that dingoes are like an oppressed class in this, like, Echidna society.
You would think.
Oh.
I do think, because, like, don't they live in, like, underdeveloped areas, and like they're like they literally hold a sign at a protest that says dingo power.
Yeah, where Knuckles, who is, I guess, the chief of police? No, Knuckles in a hat is the chief of police.
Oh
he
yeah, they
said-
all have various hats that
yeah,
make them
he
different
says,
characters.
now, if you must protest, do you have to block the roads? And then, like, COINTELPRO, like, dingo infiltrator starts throwing fireworks, and, like, police brutality starts occurring.
Against
But-
the
Oh
dingoes.
lord.
Yeah, exactly. So, the plot line there is that, God, this story is such dog shit. The plot line there is that the echidnas and the dingoes live side by side somewhat peacefully because the dingoes are just utter reprobates. They are complete warmongers. They have no morals or values. They exist to only attack surrounding nations. In fact,
Are they the Germans in this situation?
no.
They
Oh my
Okay, they
God,
should-
both are.
Given that
Everybody,
description-
everybody in here is German.
Given that description, they should be the Germans. But go on.
So one of their first encounters with the Echidna tribe is launching nuclear bombs at them,
Oh my god.
supplied by Eggman. God, oh my God,
Oh,
this is
so
getting
Eggman's doing his, like, colonialist, like, divide and rule thing on them.
dude.
In the
This is getting.
same way, the U.S. made sure Israel got nuclear bombs, Eggman supplied the dingoes with. Is it like what's happening here?
We can't think about this too deeply. I just have to get through this explanation.
Okay. Get through it. Get through it.
So Eggman
Do you
is
think
supplying.
Benjamin Netanyahu is an echidna?
Yeah, the Sonic
Sorry, go
series
on.
is just so messy.
So
Benjamin
this-
Netanyahu is the Jewish friend that Ken Penders was talking to.
Fuck you! I was drinking water.
God damn it.
Oh my
Benjamin
god.
Netanyahu, is there anything there? I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. Someone look up Netanyahu the Hedgehog while Ryan continues.
How do you spell that? I'm so sorry.
God, who knows? Because the
This
person who made
episode
the
is
character
gonna be
doesn't know how to.
6 hours long.
Oh, this is a mess. What have I done?
Jesus Christ. Okay. Sorry, Ryan. Go ahead.
Eggman supplies the dingoes with nukes. They immediately start trying to nuke the echidnas. The echidnas somehow deflect them in a way that I don't bother to remember.
I'm muting my audio.
A headline
Dec-
from the Jerusalem Post in 2020: Two hedgehogs into Hydra. Netanyahu and Gantz are rewriting the rules.
Decades of conflict between the dingoes and the echidnas ensue. At some point, there's some intergalactic war involving the two parties that I don't care to remember because, like, Sonic just starts following Warhammer 40k rules at some point that ends up decimating the dingo homeland, and the dingoes have to move to Angel Island, but then Angel Island gets destroyed and they have to move to this new city called Echidnopolis, where they all live together, except the echidnas hold all of the political power and the dingoes live in slums, not because they are oppressed in any way by the echidnas. It's because they are just bad at living and choose to live in deplorable conditions. And in fact, the echidnas supply them with all the charity and the food and the housing that they could ever possibly want, but the dingoes are just complete ingrates and reject it all and choose to live in filth and protest against these echidnas, leading to the protest we were talking about. Now, see, this leads to the rise of fascist echidna Dimitri, who wants to use technology to drive the dingoes out. But these are not the real fascists. In fact, the real fascists are the dingoes, because they are the ones who materialize a fascist movement within their ranks under the leadership of, God, it's some fucking dingo with Vaughn as a middle name, who starts creating literal dingo brown shirts to drive the echidnas out of Echidnopolis. And
I think I found him. Helmut von Stryker.
correct, yes, which eventually leads to the Echidna Holocaust, the actual
Oh
event
my god.
where thousands upon thousands of echidnas perish as dingoes take control of echidna society until Sonic and friends end up pushing these dingoes back and restoring order. I am skipping over so much, but it's so not worth
And
mentioning.
the reappearance of Sonic is like, you've dragged us through such incredible depths of like echidna and dingo like race wars. Jacob over here is horrified, just frozen. And so Sonic has come back like a fucking like angel dragging you out of the depths.
Like,
Fucking
I'm so
why
happy to
people,
see something familiar in all this.
this is why people fucking hate Ken Penders, man. Because
okay,
Yeah.
but tell me you wouldn't love to see fucking Sonic Saving Private Ryan though. Like, just they're so fast. The bullets are so fast. Everybody's running around. They're going up the hill. I'm just saying, or maybe like Sonic Band of Brothers, and it's like fucking Tails and Shadow and stuff. I'm just saying there
Some
is
like echidna
potential
with the
here.
German accent is interviewed
But-
decades later. Like, so they come over the beach and I shoot, and for everyone I kill, there's like 1,000 more.
It would be
It's-
like a historically accurate reenactment of D-Day, but with Sonic characters.
Exactly right. No, we need a Sonic and Glorious Bastards. And if Sega does that, Mario will be gone. A gritty, Tarantino will direct the video game. We're bringing him, we're bringing him in. I'm just saying, God damn it.
like,
I don't even,
dude,
This
this is
Tarantino, if you're watching this, please make this happen.
every single time I try and go to bat for Penders, where it's like, oh yeah, for better, for worse, the
Yeah.
Sonic series wouldn't have been the same without him. Then I remember this shit where he's like rewriting the fucking First They Came for the Communist poem and is showing dingoes being carted off in trucks to mysterious locations as a fascist
God.
dictator doing the Roman salute and shouting "Hail technology" is happening. And those aren't the fascists.
And it's
The people in carts are the
And
fascists.
it's a version
I'm
of the
so
Roman
mad.
salute, notably, like where he's not got his fingers extended, but like he's got his finger and his thumb in the shape of an L, not on his forehead.
Like a loser.
But they're
they're
exactly.
doing the fucking Fortnite dance with the L. Imagine the
You
next
know-
wave, Zoomer fascism will be doing Fortnite dances. Yes.
Oh my God,
Uh,
can you imagine flossing Hitler?
Oh god, it's like no, Ken Penders,
Ken
you
Penders
cannot
can.
write your Holocaust fantasy with your Sonic the Hedgehog comic book.
But he can.
Jesus
You
Christ.
say no, he can't. But yes, he can.
In
And he
the
did.
Worst way
I
like,
mean-
how can you read this
Published.
and say like Ken Penders doesn't have the most like frothing reactionary politics imaginable. Like
Mhm.
he is invoking the civil rights movement with the like protests occurring in the streets against echidnas, and they are the bad guys.
Yeah, and again, like the Hitler quoting, George Wallace paraphrasing, quoting, like, dude, like, is not the real fascist in this situation, according to Ken Penders. Like, it's so wild.
It's
I
like
just
he's
want to know how it got past publishing. Like, how did no one look at this and be like, "Hey, Ken, you might want to rethink this because this might be taken in a pretty tasteless manner."
For the same reason that this, what I was saying earlier, like when the people just don't give a shit, stuff gets published, right? And the same way that some like really remarkable shit can like come into being that makes no sense at all, but can be like really fun, like fucking Dr. Quack stepping on a landmine. That this is the dark side of that. And you see it in, simultaneous things. You see it in things like Star Wars Legends, where they will have genuinely remarkable, insane stuff like they use Hang Vong, and they'll also have an entire series about the droid who catches fire at that one scene in episode 4 in Star Wars. That's the backside of this. Like when you can just create anything and no one is paying attention, then anything can come into existence. And that includes this. And Ken Penders at this point of writing this has been working there for years. And I guess he's just like, I can finally bring my vision into being. And I mean,
Well,
I don't know what to say. It's
well,
wild.
but you've hit upon something very relevant and very true, Jacob, which is that, you can have moments of pathos and you can have story beats that echo, and allude to things that happen in real life and have it work, right?
Right.
Mhm.
With Dr. Quack just saying, yeah, I was tending to the troops and I got, blasted by a landmine and now I'm this and now this is where I am, like that's relatable. That happens. It is conceivable that, war could escalate in this setting to a point where, yeah, landmines can hurt people, like, it's not directly ripping off the darkest moments of human history in the way that fucking Ken Penders does. It's just, you know, and in doing this, of course, Ken Penders does violence to his own story because we're not talking about his story anymore. We're talking about the fucking like, as we're not talking about it as a story. We're talking about the sheer insanity of it because of what it echoes. It's impossible to divorce
Mhm.
it from its influences.
Last thing I'll say about this atrocity before we move on is that the politics
Yeah.
present in the game are much better. Um,
Yes, absolutely.
Let's speak to
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
they don't go nearly as deep, but they have a very funny view of like state power. In that the government,
The
the
president.
police, and the military are all the exact same thing, and it's for the entire world. It's called the Guardian Unit of Nations, abbreviated as GUN.
That's funny.
And the
And
fact that the
they're
president has like a framed picture of Sonic and Shadow on his desk as seen in Shadow the Hedgehog.
That's awesome.
the two
That
notable
is
things that Gun have done is racially profile Sonic the Hedgehog, leading to his false imprisonment.
right.
And I am not joking. On screen, execute a 13-year-old child by shooting her in the head, kicking off the character of Shadow
I'm
the
sorry in the
Hedgehog.
head. Oh my god, that's even worse than I thought.
And a character,
fuck.
notably, like this character had the same like degenerative disease as this other bunny character in like the Sonic comics. Like they both have like
Nids.
NIDS,
Yeah,
neuroimmunodeficiency
Nids.
syndrome or something. It's
Sonic AIDS. Yeah.
yeah, Sonic AIDS. It's basically like the way it sounds is
Sonic
like
AIDS is a game.
Oh my
Played
god.
Sonic Forces. Yeah, you're now playing Sonic AIDS.
God.
A little bit of a different game.
So bad.
So
Why is this our
terrible.
darkest episode?
Dude,
yeah,
I
why is
wish
this the
It's
episode where we
Sonic
talk about the fucking
too.
stab in the back myth?
Yeah, why is this the episode that like people are gonna pull quotes from to like cancel me at some point?
'cause,
The
look,
Sonic episode.
if we were just
That's
talking
my
about
bad, Jake. I got you canceled through Sonic.
It happens. It's worth it.
Have you,
possible.
Ken Penders, come on the pod and answer us?
I will. Oh no. To be
he
clear,
might,
Ken
no, he
Penders as
genuinely
well.
might.
Ken Penders can come on the pod. I want Ken Penders to come on the podcast. He has a standing invitation.
As far as I know, he's still active on Twitter, but I have deleted my Twitter a year ago, so I have no idea what he is up to nowadays. But that
Meanwhile,
would be
Twitter
quite
deleted
interesting.
us.
Yeah, I know. I'm still so pissed about that for y'all. That was bullshit.
You
So,
know,
yeah.
well, never mind.
Well, let's
This is a
return.
lot like life in a kidnopolis is trying to be on Twitter as the Socialist Shelf. That's
Well,
all I'm saying.
let's return to sanity here
Thank
and check out this last arc
To
of
kind of bring it home here. 'Cause
yeah.
this is something, y'all.
Now this is Sonic 190 through 193, which were to be collected in the trade paperback Hedgehog Havoc, which was canceled in 2015 after being teased. But of course it's available online still. We can find it. We're skipping ahead 56 issues at this point. A lot of things have changed. There's an alternate like evil like mirrorverse that Sonic and his friends are fighting their evil selves from. Like instead of Princess Sally, there's Princess Alicia. Instead of Tails, there's Miles. Instead of Amy Rose, there's really evil
Rosie
and
the
unhinged Amy.
Rascal.
That yes, Rosie, who I love. And
Yeah.
instead of
And
Sonic,
ironically, this is my favorite arc in the whole comic
yes,
series
because
I got
instead of
to
Sonic,
go
it's got
through.
Scourge.
I
And maybe
love
you want,
Scourge. He's
yes,
such a
speak to that.
doofus.
Yeah, he looks like somebody's OC. He looks like he's got the fucking like Guy Fieri jacket. He's got sunglasses. He's green instead of blue.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he's a very badly written character, but I can't bring myself to hate him because like the whole Dark Universe, I was pretty interested in seeing like the evil alter egos of them. And I do admit fan fiction is kind of to blame for me still having a big soft spot for Scourge.
Now, I can cancel Scourge, and I can cancel him pretty easily.
How are you going to cancel him?
So, you know what he looks like. He's green. He's got red sunglasses. He's got huge scars. He's a huge badass.
Yeah,
he's
He's cool. He's hot.
if you've ever read the Warriors Cats series, he's basically the Scourge from that as well.
Mhm.
However, that's not what he originally looked like. He originally was just Sonic wearing a leather jacket and
Also
could
He
cool.
was blue.
easily pass as Sonic without the leather jacket, leading to a mix-up that could be called a mix-up that could be described as statutory. If you all
What?
would like to
Mhm.
take a gander at this comic panel.
Oh no. Oh no.
We're looking at here.
Uh-huh.
Oh no.
I just so what
This
you are
is like
seeing,
that one really notorious Marvel comic where Spider-Man and Wolverine switched brains and then Mary Jane left Peter a note saying, let's not do that again until we're older the next day once their brains had switched back.
I
lot of that
completely forgot
going
about
on.
that scene. I appreciate you bringing that up because that is the one scene that Scourge did I will not defend whatsoever because that's just vile. As a Scourge fan, that was gross.
Did
This-
Scourge disguised as Sonic just fuck Bunny?
Pretty
wow,
much,
it's
that's
so
what's heavily
heavily
implied.
implied. It's yeah.
Yeah, I
When
guess
he's
we
winking
were
at the
I guess we
camera,
weren't
you
being
knew what he
very
did.
Yeah, we weren't being very good for the listeners there. Yes, that is exactly what it implied. Yes, Scourge seems to have fucked Sonic's girlfriend under the guise of being Sonic when he is not, in fact, Sonic.
And he
Like-
did this with, I believe, 3 other characters in the same
Yeah,
comic. Under the
he
guise
flirted
is
of
with
Sonic.
Rouge, I think with Amy.
It is
It's just-
unclear
it's
if he went
interesting.
fast or not.
Oh God, Scourge, you absolute vile, disgusting creature. Why
Such
do
a-
I like you?
Such
Okay,
a-
but the redesign of Scourge would never do that. The different appearance Scourge. Is there
Yeah.
let's
Well,
let's bring it in because it's
yeah.
yeah.
we've been at this for a second here. Someone give us
Yes.
a quick plot overview of
So,
this. What are
yes,
our takeaways? What are our
We have
thoughts?
the Freedom Fighters fighting the Suppression Squad, the good Sonics fighting the bad Sonics.
Suppression Squad
And-
is SS, by the way. I don't know if I was just feeling Pinder pilled from
Oh,
that, and that
no.
I read that into it. I don't know if that's on purpose or not, but I just had
Oh,
Nazis on the
God.
brain.
I just want to say that was an accident. Oh God, at least
It-
I hope it was an
It has to
accident.
be.
I'm sure it's not on purpose, but it was hard not to notice that.
So
after.
they're doing this, and then like on the other side of the world, I guess, or elsewhere, Knuckles and Team Chaotix, different animal characters, are fighting this. I guess like cybernetic race of echidnas that's thrown in their lot with Eggman, including
Yeah.
Knuckles' sometimes great grandfather Dimitri, who is just like a brain in a jar on a scorpion
Wait,
body.
same or different Dimitri?
It's hard to tell.
Okay, just unclear if he's going to become fake out Hitler later or not.
But again, like the sheer strength of the characters that we have on display here, they all in Ken Penders, Knuckles verse, right? They all tend to sound the same. They're very long-winded. They're given to like long expositions about like their politics and whatnot. Like, oh, I think these fascists have a point. No, they don't, because here's why, this, that, the other. But like everybody's got different, a different register here that they speak in, a different sense of humor. Like it comes across in the fighting as well. There's a sense of motion in every panel that they're illustrated in. And it lends itself very well to the imagination. Like, oh, like Sonic and Sally like are fighting like their evil versions, and then they suddenly swap to trip them up. Like there's a lot more going on here. It speaks to like a much a universe that is much more comfortable in itself, right? That doesn't need to lean on, our sordid history of one stripe or another.
I agree. This is pretty peak. This is the most enjoyment I had reading our selection of comics.
It makes me want to binge like this whole Sonic comic series. I literally might do that once we finish this call.
I remember like Metal Sonic just inserts himself between the fight and Scourge. That
Yeah.
and deals him with chaos control, and Metal Sonic is like, "Fuck you! I'm gonna go fight these guys because I'm sensing massive chaos energy." Just leaving Eggman confused.
Yeah, and again, like the the basic element of a plot is this happens because this happens because this happens, right? What's happened, right? Sonic and friends lose the fight against the Suppression Squad. They had to give up their headquarters. The Council of the Acorn is now a republic now instead of a monarchy. I don't know when that changed.
Thank
but, like,
God. Thank
but,
God.
like-
It was too. It needed to happen.
Yeah,
Viva la revolution, of course.
But like the council says, well, we don't want to fight on two fronts, so we're gonna let them have it for now. And Sonic's like, no, fuck that. I'm gonna find a way to like beat these guys. Like it's genuinely compelling, to see him run up against these dynamics and go his own way.
So
And-
much fun.
Yeah.
We're back at what works as well with this adaptation, which is like, what makes Sonic work, which is just going fast. Once again, just going like we're all in, and like let's not be ponderous. Let's not think about these grand concepts. Have your concepts, whatever. But like, no, here's Sonic and here's fucking Metal Sonic, and we're running around and we're punching this guy and we're punching that guy, and we're just gonna like go full speed, and we're gonna see where we end up by the end. And there's
Shadow just
and that works.
like Shadow just pops out of nowhere. Amy's cousin, Robbo the Hedge, who's like just pretty much inspired by Robin Hood. He comes by because he senses that, like Sonic is in some sort of danger. It's just like a whole battle between hedgehogs.
It feels like a Dragon Ball Z movie.
It does, and I
It
love the
really
Dragon Ball Z
does.
films.
Exactly.
And the thing is, like, you might not like it, but like if you're someone who is outside of, for a podcast, gonna pick up a Sonic the Hedgehog comic, what you want to see is hedgehogs fighting hedgehogs and doing cool shit. And that's what you get. And that's
Having
what it
sick one-liners, like, there's a side story here where Knuckles is fighting like I guess these like ancient alien robots or whatever, and their leader comes forward and says, enough, I'll handle him, and he says, lady, I don't get handled.
there
That's
you
so
go.
fucking cool.
Especially if
that.
you're like a kid reading this or whatever. Like that's the coolest shit you've ever read. You know what I mean? Like
shit
and this
hits
is
as a kid.
and there are people making comics now that like absolutely, because I like looked at it a little bit, and there's like people on forums who would be like, yeah, no, I read this as a kid and like it makes me want to make art. And I know like obviously Tay, like you were inspired by some, I don't know if it was these
Mhm.
specific comics or something else, but like I mean you can maybe speak to
Actually-
that, but it inspires people.
Yeah, yes, it was actually. It was this specific comic that, like the Sonic Hedgehog Havoc, that kind of kickstarted me liking Sonic again, especially at the cliffhanger when Sonic found out that Scourge has a super form, which meant that Scourge was 10 times more dangerous. And
Very Dragon Ball.
I admit, like Scourge's super design is actually really cool. I like the color palette. I like how they designed his eyes, and just even thinking about it gives me like a whole kick of nostalgia
Oh,
because I
holy
remember
shit, that is
being like
cool.
on the edge of my seat. Like I love that comic, as silly as it is.
And I think like it captures on like, its demographic it's aiming for are like, fans of the game. Fans of the game are either going to be kids or people who want to have a childlike experience, an experience of childlike wonder, right? And what does it do? It does the like playground experience of like, you're like, well, my character has metal powers. And it's like, well, my character has metal powers times 10. And it like then depicts it in such a way where it's real. And like, and there's only so many, you see that sometimes in things like shown in anime, like Dragon Ball Z is probably like the best example I can give of something like that. But like it works here too. And it like puts you in that child mind, that child headspace. I think it makes it work. It doesn't have to, it can be something that's enjoyable for adults without trying to be an adult thing, a like gritty
Mhm.
reboot or something like that. I wouldn't even call it a gritty reboot that Ken Penders has tried to do in some of this other stuff. It's more of like a gritty internal coup of the thing. Not that you can't like have serious concepts or make something that's like a plot line that adults can understand, but like you ask yourself, like, what are we doing here? What is the tone of this series? What are we trying to be? Like this whole thing has an inherent absurdity to it. These are fucking hedgehogs and echidnas. So like what makes it fun? What lines can we walk? Where can we go? And I really enjoy it. I think it's cool. And I can see why. And as someone who's like totally outside this world, I can see why, someone getting into this, like they play some of the game and they read some of this, they can be like really inspired to go and make their own thing. And I feel like till now I have not gotten why no matter what your name is, you can look up that name, the hedgehog,
Mhm.
and there can be somebody. And it's like some 9-year-old somewhere probably made it. Oh, maybe a little older than that. But like it's similar to like we were talking about in the creepypasta episode, especially at a specific period of the internet. But even now, it inspires you to go and do your own thing. And that's super cool to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%. Couldn't
And
have put it better.
if it was all of the Nazi verse, it would not be the same way. At least I hope everyone wouldn't be making fucking dingo OCs. Because we would be in a concerning situation.
Well,
Yeah,
and
there's a
Yeah,
reason
that
there's
would
very
be.
little of that.
well, and on the subject of inspiring great creativity and whatnot, there is a fan letter from Sonic 191. It's long and it's heartfelt, and it's like, yeah, all my old issues of Knuckles like really got me through problems with my family when I was younger. Like Knuckles' dad was watching over
Mhm.
him, and that really resonated with me. It's somebody named Ryan from Georgia.
Oh, really?
Ryan, care to weigh
I'm
in?
I'm sure there's nothing to that. Anyway, um
No, it's a Ryan H. It's not you.
all of what we've just highlighted, one, Jacob, it's really funny how much you're mentioning Dragon Ball Z without knowing what Supersonic is. Like that's really, really funny to me.
I don't know what Supersonic is. No, I
But also,
assume it's has even more Dragon Ball vibes.
He gets the
He's
Chaos
golden Sonic with
Emeralds.
red eyes.
Yes,
Got it.
yes. He
Got
gets
it.
the Chaos Emeralds and then he becomes supersonic.
Okay, so it's literally Super Saiyan.
he
Sick.
glows yellow and can fly.
In this
Mhm.
genre, that's okay that they have that.
But anyway,
Wait, is that
Ever-
his move he gets in Brawl when he breaks the
Yes.
fucking Smash Ball?
Yep.
Very cool.
Yes.
Gotcha.
so everything good that we just kind of highlighted there is pretty like inseparable from Penders. Like
Right.
Mhm.
especially when it comes to that quote like, hey, yeah, this really helped me like as a young child work through like family issues, because Kenders was a huge family guy. Like he was
Penders.
oh man, I've just
Hey Peter,
Penders.
yeah, you remember when I stepped on that mine and I could no longer be in the service?
No,
Petey,
I
you're wearing
tried
an eye
this-
patch on the wrong eye.
I tried to stop myself before this podcast episode extended another hour.
Two
But,
episodes in a row. Yeah.
But
Right.
yeah, no, Kenders was unafraid to put like a bunch of family stuff in there because he had a bunch of family baggage, and part of him writing Sonic was him working through it. And also a lot of this was because he was writing Sonic for his kids. Like his kids were really, really big fans of the game, and he wanted to make something that they would like genuinely love, genuinely be able to engage with, and also his kind of like way to communicate with them in a way that maybe he couldn't like in person. I don't know, that's kind of maybe psychoanalyzing a little bit too much, but there is a lot of that in the comics. But also to your point of letting that get a little bit too far, Yeah, to the point where he was literally putting his children into the Sonic series as characters. This is one of the more notorious things he's done. Heavily encourage you all to look up the movie trailer he made with some very lovely storyboarding and screen direction and hand animated Penders work, which fortunately did not become the Sonic movies we know and love today.
God, somewhere
I
there
can
is an
see where the
alternate.
sentiment was. I can see where the sentiment was with him wanting to involve his kids in the project, because like I can see like as a father that would be pretty wholesome. It's just the way artistically how it was executed. It did not land.
Mhm.
At least from what I seen, it was just it didn't land. I'm
And,
sorry.
and I mean, you want these things to succeed that come from a genuine place of love, right? I mean, the famous story about the Street Fighter film, right? Where Raul Julia played M. Bison and he knew he was dying of
Yeah.
cancer and he knew his kids loved Street Fighter,
Mhm.
so he's like, I'm gonna act the shit out of this role in an otherwise dog shit movie.
That's why Jim Carrey is
Oh.
Eggman.
Yeah. So it all links up, And I mean that family element is like super sweet, and that's what makes, the pathos in those comics work. Obviously there's the batshit action that's a ton of fun, and there's like the sweet family element, and they work together to make it like solid.
When
But in
Sonic's
this,
parents are like, yeah, we didn't change a thing in your room while you were away because
right.
we couldn't bring ourselves to,
Mhm.
again, you're people IRL have reunited with long lost family members. It's something real.
In the same way though,
Mhm.
Mhm.
um, you take a good thing and you're like, you know what's good? If somebody was like, you know what's good? Vanilla, I'm gonna drink straight vanilla extract, right? You're not gonna enjoy that.
Maybe you won't.
Right, maybe not. But then it's like, well, I'm just gonna literally put my children in it, right? Or it's like, you know what's good? Having like batshit politics in Sonic. I'm gonna just go whole ham and have a Holocaust allegory, right? There is such thing as too much of a good thing, and
Mhm.
and we see it happen. We see the good version and the bad version with Penders in this sort of breadth that we've seen here. Penders and the other Sonic writers. I know he's like, he's not working solo, but as the kind of guy we're focusing on here. But ultimately, I think that this high and low situation is about as representative of Sonic as a franchise as it probably could be. This is what it seems like. It's like always batshit, and sometimes it's batshit fun, and sometimes it's batshit just like, what are you doing? Um, and it remains baffling to me, and I think to everyone who really loves it, even the people who understand it most. I feel like that I talk to are like, yeah, no, there's a lot that I'm just like, what's going on here? I don't know. Maybe Ryan and Tay can speak to that better, but that's my perspective as an outsider here.
I mean, me personally, um, Sonic had a very fundamental impact on me as a child. The series in general,
Yeah,
not so much
same.
Sonic. I could take or leave Sonic the character. It was really Shadow. Like,
Mhm.
Sonic Adventure 2 really unlocked something in my brain as like a 6 or 7 year old. It really got me to engage. I could do an entire separate episode on just Sonic Adventure 2, which is what the upcoming movie plot is going to be. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was the first time I had really felt like I was being talked to on my level in a way that other media was not what I was realizing at the time, but kind of saying like, "Oh yeah, you're a kid, you'll kind of like whatever." Where it was really, looking
Mhm.
me in the eye and saying like, "Hey, we're trying to engage you with something in a way that you can understand it," and it left an impact on me like to this day.
Yeah.
Well, as a kid, like having been and perceived as the weird kid growing up, to me, Sonic felt like that friend that I always wanted to look towards. He was that friend that I always wanted to have, and has since left a huge impact on my life. Clearly, the first thing that I began drawing was fan art for Sonic, which I wish I had still kept some of my old art, but to me, Sonic has always inspired me creatively, wanting to be the better version of myself and getting to explore all these characters and these very complex storylines and learning how to smile even when I was at my lowest point. It just felt like since I was a kid, Sonic has always been there for me, and I've loved how much it has impacted my life.
That is why Tay will be writing a Sonic take on the Korean War. Very, I'm just kidding. I just chose an event that
Coming
happened after World War II.
soon.
Oh
The
yeah,
The
Vietnam,
Sonic
yeah.
Attack on Titan edition.
you haven't
Oh
read
my
Hedgehog
god.
Havoc 3 issues 208 through
Oh,
211 where
Lord.
Hedgehog Chi Min. Is this anything? Should I
I
stop?
would believe you if you said it was real. Like if you said it straight face, I would believe Hedgehog Chi Man is a thing. Like at this point, why would I not believe that? You know what I mean? Um, well, thank y'all all for listening to another episode of the Socialist Shelf. Well, actually, does anyone have any final thoughts before we kind of let Tay do her?
Here, Tay, why don't you do your plugs?
Or,
Um,
or
Follow my Instagram and my threads because I'm no longer on Twitter. I'm also active on Tumblr. I post a lot of fan art and just pretty much just posting for gits and shiggles. But if you like to follow more of my art, I would recommend checking out my Instagram especially. It's
and
at
are
Wiispywitch.
you
Sorry.
do you do commissions, Tay?
I do, but I am currently on a hiatus right now. But when I will get them open again, I will be making a post letting everyone know that I have them open once more.
Great. And once again, the art of our podcast art is done by Tay, and that's at Wispy Witch. We will be linking that in the bio here. So y'all go follow her, you go check out her art. She has a really fun style where she has a breadth of what she can do, but there's like a very specific vibe to Tay's art that I really enjoy, and I've commissioned her for like personal stuff several times for like D&D characters and stuff like that. But I really love literally when I went to like we were gonna make this show, we were gonna start this show. We were like, well, what are we gonna do for the episode art? And like, I knew immediately who I was gonna go to, even though like I know several artists. I was like, I know exactly the right like vibe and style, and I know like this goofy ass idea we have of like marble busts in front of like whatever. I know the exact style that should be made in. And I was like, and I know the exact artist to do it. So really happy to have you on, Tay, and also like, can't recommend following her strongly enough.
Yes,
That really
yes.
makes me happy to hear that.
Yeah, you
Oh,
are an
sorry, I'm a narcissist.
integral, indispensable part of Team Shelf.
That makes me really happy to hear that from the both of you all. And thank you so, so much again for asking me to do the art for you guys.
Does anyone have any final thoughts before I bring this home? Because I do have one final thing I want to close this on.
Yeah, in a similar vein, like don't be afraid to go out and create something, no matter how cringe, because it might wrap around to being awesome again, like in,
Yeah.
Sonic 134 and 190 through 193. But if you're gonna include like real world parallels or make a commentary on something similar to what happened in the real world, maybe ask more than just your one friend.
Especially if it's your
Yes.
one friend in Philadelphia through the no, never mind. It doesn't.
Who goes on to like be the president of Israel or yeah.
Yeah.
Not making any accusations or assumptions here, but yeah, I mean, I couldn't help but think of Lovecraft, when you were talking about how this inspires so many people to create their own OCs and to see themselves in this, right? And Lovecraft, of course, had his own problems, but the reason that his stuff survives in the way that it does is because he encouraged people to play in the worlds that he helped to create, right? And to take them and do their own thing. He very much resisted the idea of there being a specific canon, which is pretty much the opposite of Ken Penders.
Mhm.
So,
Make
the
of it
one
what you will. Yeah.
yeah, one of the few
Yeah.
things that I think Lovecraft got absolutely right.
And just to bring us home, I would like to quote one of the greats who came before me. There is a man named Samuel Thomas who is a Sonic scholar and historian who has delivered many addresses to the Sonic fan base. In fact, there is one address to the Sonic fan base delivered in 2013. He's very much the equivalent of Sonic's Michael Parenti. And I would just like to read the introduction to that here. So, this would have been delivered in 2013 amidst the backlash to '06 and the current state of the Sonic franchise and the Sonic fandom. Okay, that is it. This is the final straw. I've had it with all you freaking trolls. and all you freaking haters, and all you freaking Sonic fan fricks. You guys are the ones that ruin Sonic for everyone. Can't you see that? What the frick are you guys doing? Asking for all this freaking garbage. Why do we need Sonic Adventure 3? Why do we need Sonic Heroes 3? Why do we need another Boost to Win title? Why do we need a Sonic 2006 sequel? Why do we need all that? Can't we have a 3D environment classic Sonic game for crying out freaking loud? You guys killed the Sonic series. All you freaking fan fricks and your freaking fantasies spewed out at you by freaking poo merchants. I'm tired of all you fricks. I'm so freaking mad. I'm so freaking mad. I mean, you guys have officially made me lose my marbles. Why can't you just ask for a 3D environment classic Sonic game? This is a nightmare. I'm sure no Sonic fan that the adventure fantasies would ruin everything. And now I bet by now that Sonic has got a frickin' Sonic Adventure 3 in development with Sonic Team because you frickin' fricks can't ever be quenched. Your fantasies can't ever be quenched, can they? You freaking fricks. When will you learn? When will you learn that your actions have consequences? You guys keep on asking for Sonic Adventure 3. You're ruining the Sonic series. Hasn't it suffered enough? And that goes on for approximately 7 more paragraphs and 13 more minutes. But I believe
I realized-
that was beautiful,
I
Ryan.
realized where you were going. After a second, I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is it. When will you learn that your actions have consequences? Well, it's not as good as what I was going to say, but I'll say this to close it. Penders? I hardly know hers. You have a good one.
Take care, y'all.
Right.
Thank you for listening to Socialist Shelf Radio.